Barbie was like, well, okay, I hated it. I resent having to watch it. Didn't want to see it. Knew kind of I wouldn't like it, but when it tried to go in with an open mind, I think it did. It also, with like big kind of studio films like this, they are made. It's hard to say how much creative freedom she had and what was like wedged in by committee or whatever. But it was like formally experimental in certain ways that then I think we just saw it, so I'm still processing but she did do certain like things formally that were experimental that then made a lot of the plot devices and it was hideous. Well, first of all, it was like just like aesthetically a very like assaulting and like ugly movie that looked like shit.
Yeah.
And and then it ended up doing so much of like telling instead of showing that it could have done because it all had already given itself certain freedoms and liberties in terms of like the approach to filmmaking.
Well, yeah, of course, Barbie has spawned so many like different nesting dolls of discourses, like the incel rage discourse, the mid discourse, the feminism discourse, etc. But like, I didn't even see it as a movie about the current political climate or contemporary gender roles because it was so like incoherent and hodgepodge. Like that was the main. It was like a bird's eye view into like the incoherence of the liberal mind, basically. And you said something smart when we were leaving the theater that was like, I don't know what I just saw. I don't know if this is even a movie. I don't even know what a movie is anymore. And it reminds me of like that point I was beating to death in like 2018, 2019 about Uncut Gems, that it was like the first meme movie, that it wasn't like a formal film as such. It was a collection, a sequence of memes.
Yeah, there's no way to even take it in or watch it the way that you would a normal film besides to like perceive the meme potential.
Right. And actually like
generates.
Our minds are primed to like make sense of it all, but there's actually no making sense. Like every step of the way it thwarts your ability to understand what's going on.
It was like, incredibly frustrating.
Yeah. And it's like, so Barbie world is a feminist utopia, but is actually a seamless and frictionless Nietzschean dystopia where people are really happy on the surface, but actually some of them the aristocratic ones have like intrusive thoughts of death and
because of certain things that happen in
the real world. And the real world is like a disgraced and humiliated patriarchy where the men have gone underground and manipulate in stealthy and unofficial feminine ways.
It had like it was it had very much this liberal pitch of like quippy, stupid, like self-awareness. The thing that really started to get under my skin about it very early on, which I despise mainly about it, was that I was like, it feels like it's like a movie for children. It's like so pandering and condescending that it feels like a movie for babies, but it isn't, because it's like a little self-aware and it's but it's not. So it ends up being like neither for children nor adults, right? And it becomes like this film that's for an audience of this like for a very like
infantilized adults,
a stunted like retard. And I resent that. I don't want to be in that position. I don't want to be the audience for this.
I mean, I think that's probably why we dragged our feet so long in seeing it. I remember telling like Eli's mom on the Cape, because she was like, oh, are you guys going to review Barbie for the podcast? And his aunt was like, are you going to review Barbie for the podcast? And all my friends were like, are you going to review Barbie for the podcast? And I was like, I don't know, I guess I have to.
We felt compelled,
because we're passive and consolatory
and it's
women.
our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
It's like you got to give the people what they want. It is, you know,
Yeah.
this is we know how to butter our bread or whatever the saying is.
But I had this like
what side of bread butter is.
foreboding feeling of dread and doom, and I told her like I don't really have any desire to see this movie or Oppenheimer. And I think she thought that I was being like a political contrarian, but it's really not for any like political or ideological reasons. And actually, you know that review that you sent me by Armand White, America's premier Black film critic?
Yes. I wanted to revisit, but forgot.
Yeah, we forgot. But I think the one thing that I remember from it was him talking about how the film was too overdetermined, too on the nose, because it was this grab bag of millennial political references from the 90s and the 2000s that no longer have any bearing on the real world.
Exactly. It felt very, like the insights and observations that it offered were very like mundane, like 2011 era.
But even now I think he's maybe giving it too much credit. Because it's like they tick all the boxes, but they don't actually spin a coherent narrative either way. Not that a movie has to have a coherent narrative, by the way.
No, that's not my issue with it, because I think that can be done well with certain like
experimental films.
Or like style, like stylistic or like aesthetic choices that are made. But I didn't have that. It didn't have it didn't have like a point of view, which also films don't need. But this
it had the facsimile, like the meme of a point of view.
Yeah,
we're talking about incels and feminism and the patriarchy,
the constant invocation, of like the patriarchy in a way that was like didn't mean anything. Even I enjoyed Will Ferrell. I always do. Yeah,
it felt like he was doing some improv.
Yeah,
they gave him a long leash.
He carried that movie on his back. I thought, it just was really like any of its like metaphysical or like existential. It made me really not want to see White Noise as well, because I was like, oh, is this going to be the same like existentialism 101 like undergrad course work of like someone thinking they're smart? Like the thought, it made me like think about them writing the script and feeling really like
chuckling to each other,
proud of themselves for their dumb little fucking quips.
And it was just like a lot of like extremely online references and knowing Jewish jokes that you could see coming from the mind of Baumbach, but then which were like designed by committee into like these like acceptable libtard quips.
I thought Ryan Gosling was kind of he's shown a bit in his like comedic chops. He did some good like physical comedy.
I have to say I feel very bad and guilty because I've always kind of shortchanged Ryan Gosling, because he's like supposedly this leading man. I've never found him particularly compelling or attractive.
Same.
He's like too long and narrow faced to play Ken.
Well, the casting, and Armand White made this point as well that we brought up, that Margot Robbie is not, though for Gerwig's kind of Barbie, she's perfect, but she's not really like doll like.
She's like Gerwig's idealized vision of herself.
Exactly.
But I have to say, like In Motion, he defied expectations because he does have good comedic timing and he has actually a very good voice. I think the standout of the film for me was Rhea Perlman, the wife of Danny DeVito, who plays Barbie inventor Ruth Handler. So like ostensibly this is a film about, again, like the contemporary political climate and modern gender roles, but to me it was like literally an allegory for rapacious jays taking control of Hollywood and culture and like children's toys and children's programming and making it into like a high-minded moral crusade. The ordeal of civility.
Yes.
A pay-on to unlimited immigration.
I can't. It felt really like Fukushima, the end of cinema to me. Like I was like, this is the last movie, and it's fitting now that the industry is in shambles. Yep, this is the last movie.
But it made me think of like how all the leading architects of American culture are basically smart Jewish people from Brooklyn by way of Ukraine who literally wrote all the Christmas music.
Yeah.
Like they kind of identified and determined for Gentiles what their culture would be.
Right. They made this like perfect wasp woman.
Yeah.
The
in
Barbie
the early
doll.
to middle 20th century, who was named after Ruth Handler's daughter, Barbara.
Yeah.
Which Margot Robbie in the end pays an homage to when she goes to the gynecologist, which is like
another Jewish profession.
Yeah. And it's like the gynecologist is the church of the liberal faith. And it circles back.
She goes to get an abortion.
Yeah, she does. And it circles back to like that intro scene, which was also like a very on the nose homage to 2001: A Space Odyssey.
But like also barely thought through. Yeah. Like really just like the like the music and the like the girls smashing the baby dolls and
an
stuff.
allegory for abortion. For late term abortion.
Infanticide. Let's call it what it is. We all were thinking it. But yeah, also, like you said, just really cheap, just like surface level, like the constant references, the like cheeky, stupid liberal voice, like made me want to blow my fucking brains out.
That's now just like a hallmark, like a signature of all cinema. If you watch the previews for any movie,
you get the idea.
It's like Paw Patrol and Troll Dolls.
Yeah, yeah. We also
making like clippy, snide, liftard remarks.
Yeah, the previews that we had to sit through also made me feel unwell. And like I thought of you actually, and I was like, is Lenny gonna watch? Like, I know babies love Paw Patrol. Yeah, which is a Blue Lives Matter show, so I'm politically aligned with it. But
it's literally about police dogs.
It's about police dogs, yeah.
They're like, come on, gang, let's round up some black criminals.
But yeah, the Trolls movie made me feel like I was having a fucking stroke.
Yeah, it was horrible. And I loved Trolls even more than Barbie growing up. But yeah, and that brings me back to like Armand White's point that there were all these unnecessary, shoehorned liberal shibboleths dotting the movie, which are fundamentally untruths. Like when Barbie and Ken leave Barbie world and parachute themselves into the real world by way of Venice Beach, and Barbie's getting like catcalled by men, and the first group of men to catcall her are like white frat boys dressed in preppy clothing.
Always, yeah.
Yeah, always.
Of course, that's who's someone's doing the catcalling. And it's these white devils. I mean, why is there a fat Barbie? And why do we have to... that's never really addressed the way that some of the other, off-brand Barbies are. It makes, some, cute little references to, apparently Mattel manufactured, a pregnant Barbie briefly.
Midge, yeah.
Who's, alluded to. And then it's, there's a sequence at the end where they, introduce some of the, failed Barbie designs. And the non-Margot Robbie Barbies are meant to, reflect the diversification of the Barbie franchise. But then, there never was, a obese one. There's never a fat one.
No.
And we're just supposed to take that as, it's so insulting. To just be like, oh, yeah, of course there's, the fat one.
Yeah.
And
it's much easier to believe that there was a trans Barbie or a disabled Barbie.
Or wheelchair Barbie, whatever.
Because all dolls are fundamentally trans and disabled. They're nullified.
They have the
cupped genitals, yeah.
I don't remember there being quite so many multiracial Kens. There definitely was a black one.
I had a black Ken growing up. Yeah.
I bet you did. You
I made him do all sort of freaky deaky things up in the Jeep.
Beep beep. But yeah, the Kens were like overrepresented, really.
Pull up to my bumper, baby.
And the fat Barbie got under my skin for sure, because she was like not just like a throwaway kind of like diversity casting, like she was sort of a staple that they kept like reintroducing.
Yeah, and it begs the question, like
why
I'm using that phrase incorrectly, but then what is the difference between the real world and Barbie world?
Exactly, because the existential crisis that is brought on, that Margot Robbie's character experiences due to the rift between the Barbie world and the real world, where she starts to get like cellulite and become
Flat
less
feet.
perfect or whatever. But then it's like, then why
They
are there?
attack me.
Then why? Yeah, Zog attacks her, makes her ugly or whatever. Then like, why are there Barbies in the world that aren't? Are we supposed to then? It then just begs the question, like, are we supposed to believe that the fat Barbie then doesn't have cellulite or has some like platonically perfect fat Barbie
And why couldn't they
body?
cast Ashley Graham, who's the most beautiful plus-sized woman in the world?
Kate Upton?
You
That's
said it, not me.
That's as fat as I want my
Yeah.
fucking Barbie to get, you know?
Yeah, it was really weird and confusing.
No, the fat Barbie wasn't even pretty. Sorry, no offense.
Damn, they could have at least cast Beanie Feldstein.
I mean, if that's, they basically did. They casted like a poor man's Beanie Feldstein. Oh yeah, also Michael Cera as the weird like extra eunuch of the Barbie world.
Yeah,
as, like Alan,
as like the sex trader and scab of the Kens.
Yeah,
who goes along with the Barbie revolution.
Unclear again. Like, is he supposed to be gay?
I think he's just supposed to be discontinued. He's like a eunuch.
Well, they're all eunuchs.
Yeah, that's true.
Which were to me the fun, like kind of the most amusing details, I guess, or when they like alluded to the anatomical realities of Barbie.
The Barbie world is more real than the real world.
How so? Because it's a long
there's
house.
Morbidly obese people and nobody has sex. In the real world, it's like men are still wearing suits.
I liked the choreography.
Yeah,
I
that
liked
part was
some of
fun.
the
I felt like I was in a Bollywood
sequences.
movie.
Yeah,
I'd love to see
was-
this with 3D glasses on.
That was enchanting, certainly.
Yeah.
The costume design did not do it for me, nor did the production or set design.
Yeah.
And the cinematography was just really, really fugly. Like, it looked...
Just like thrown together.
Yeah, and all, like, as you mentioned, the kind of the cutaways to the, like, nostalgic memory, blurry reality, the bittersweet was also so
cheap.
like cheap and shit. Like, Lana Del Rey did a better job in the video game's music video, and she made that on like iMovie. You know, like you couldn't find better. Like, you couldn't generate more compelling footage than this really like deeply banal.
Yeah. And also, I think, like, back in the day when, like, Uncut Gems dropped, they did a really brilliant thing where their advertising campaign was basically run by memes. It was all memes. But they were really spearheading. And,
This
like,
is how I win.
Yeah, they were, like, deputizing people to make memes. And that was their viral marketing campaign.
Yeah.
But this takes it to a whole nother level because it really like self-referentially even like preempts the mid discourse with that Helen Mirren narration aside where she was
where she's
like,
I'm not perfect anymore.
yeah, and then it's like spoiler, like it was a bad idea to cast Margot Robbie in this role where she has to pretend that she's an ugly woman now.
Yeah.
Literally like
Mad
zooms in with a
annoying.
libtard inner monologue that tells you what to think.
Yeah.
This movie should win an Oscar.
It probably will.
It really is a brilliant feat of emotional manipulation.
Yeah.
I'm not against propaganda,
No.
aka emotional manipulation.
Well, Sound
but
of Freedom, which you haven't seen, but I did, was a masterful work of propaganda.
Barbie for men.
Had me sobbing.
Yeah.
Had me like totally like gripped with like.
But I just don't want my propaganda to feel so unsubtle.
Yeah.
And like
I want,
deliberate, like,
if you're gonna manipulate me, at least like wine
pretend
and
you
dine
think I'm
me.
smart.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't insult my intelligence, Barbie. The other like funny and interesting thing was how the Mattel HQ looked like FBI HQ, and FBI HQ looked like what you would assume a typical corporate office would look like.
Yeah.
Of course, Mattel signed on for this.
Well, I'm also part of the reason I didn't want to see Barbie, besides having no interest in it, was the marketing was so intense that like everywhere I went for like the last however long it's been since it's come out, like Soho's, but like so many brands have, I don't even know.
God,
I don't know how
disgusting.
they like. I was at Bloomie's the other day, and they had like a whole like Barbie.
Yeah, and Zara, they had a whole like
every like
area that was like blasting that Nicki Minaj Barbie song, and everything was like that cloying shade of pink. They had the amount of like brand sponsorship that they were able to acquire for this film was honestly respect.
Impressive. Yeah, that like they had like no one was able to like exclusively retail like Barbie merchandise. It was just so ubiquitous. Like everything is like Barbie-fied, which sucks and is like so I was already in a state of like extreme fatigue with like the franchise even going into the film. Like I just don't, but I don't have nostalgic attachment to Barbie the way that maybe some more like, I don't know. It's a movie for NPCs.
Also, as Armand White would probably say, like the whole premise of a Barbie movie is in and of itself on its face obsolete.
Yeah. Which then it tries to have some self-awareness around with like
and like a desperate bid to seek relevance.
The teen girl who's like, Barbie, we don't like you, and you've given women body image issues, and you're a fascist and stuff.
That was my favorite part of the movie, when those like mean teens call Barbie a fascist, and she goes out on the curb and cries.
Yeah.
Like, this is how I feel on Twitter every day
like,
when I'm being bullied by literal 19 to 23-year-olds.
She's just like me for real with her beautiful blonde hair. I mean, I liked her beautiful blonde hair.
Margot Robbie in motion is really like special and
She's
spectacular. She has something
actress.
so
I see why she's a superstar.
Yeah.
At least she's easy on the eyes, you know.
She's got kind of a donk. She's a pog.
She's not a hog, but she looks good.
And they made her body look good and everything.
She looked great. Yeah, she was in like is charming. Like the performance, like I have nothing really just bad to say about the performances, which were.
Yeah, I mean these are professionals. They know what they're doing.
Yeah,
you can't go wrong.
And they made the movie more pleasant than it otherwise would have been. My opinion of the Barbie movie is not at all colored by the fact that I auditioned for it and was not cast.
Like asymmetrical face Barbie.
Where's I mean, if there's a fat one, why can't we have a Chernobyl one or like a extremely thin one?
Anorexic Barbie.
Yeah, I mean, now that
it's just like as a woman, you can't do anything right. You want to be thin, but you can't be too thin, and you have to say that you want to be healthy. And also, you have to always give men a pat on the back and give it to them in a diplomatic way and humor them. And you can't tell them what you really think. And it's just like
Anna's referencing the monologue given by America. What's her name? America
Ferrera, who I still cling to this dream that one day Ryan Gosling will play Edward Snowden, because that's physiognomically the role that he's meant to play.
They already made a Stoner
I know,
movie.
with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, horrible casting. I haven't seen. I know that Zachary Quinto played Glenn Greenwald, which was good casting.
Yeah, very cool.
Gay representation in the media.
Yeah,
but my new dream casting, America Ferrera is AOC with that voice. Oh my God, she has the exact same voice.
She could do it.
Where she was like, I was so scared on January 7th. You don't understand. I was just going to the bodega to snag a cafecito.
In my, what did she call it? Chanclas?
In my chanclas. With my mestiza daughter.
Oof. Oof.
America Ferrera would slay as AOC.
She's aging out. They better make that biopic.
They could use that
quick.
Irishman de-aging technology.
They could. She would do great. But yeah, that whole spiel that she goes on, that then she delivers variations of over and over to, quote, like, deprogram the Barbies once Ken returns from the real world to implement like a patriarchy in Barbie land, and then brainwashes all of the Barbies, which also doesn't really make much sense. And then it's America Ferrera has to deprogram them by giving them like feminist real talk about the like trials and tribulations of womanhood. Was a real, like, for all the other like stylistic liberties it took, I was like, damn, they're really just gonna like spell it the fuck out.
Yeah, that's when it really hit rock bottom for me, sitting through that
And then I didn't think it could get worse. And then when Barbie decides to transition into a real woman, and her and what's her name, the actress, Ruth.
Oh, Rhea Perlman.
Yes, when they are like in that kind of like Truman Show-esque like liminal space or whatever, that like really went on and on, where she like describes to her the like pain and like ambiguities of the human experience, like that also again like was really just like plummeted deeply. And then it cuts to the fucking stupid montage where they take hands. It really was
they really ran out of steam. It's like us in like hour 2 of the podcast, and we're like wasting like,
you hear about
she's fat.
Kafifi on set.
You could tell that they like really just like ran out of steam. They were drunk. They wanted to wrap it up, and they couldn't.
Yeah,
So they were like, let's unload all of our most like edgelord racist takes in this one moment where
quick, say something quick.
Where Margot Robbie and Rhea Perlman are like clasping hands on the Steve Saylor-ass golf course.
Fill the dead air. Say some stats. Brutal.
Yeah,
I hope you animals are happy we went and saw this fucking movie for your stupid asses.
For your entertainment. That was really, really, really bad. And it's actually crazy that that's allowed to pass as filmmaking. And, you know, as a mother, as an expert, a connoisseur of children's media,
yes,
in the least creepy way possible, as Will Ferrell says, I remember that back in the day, children's books and movies were made for children, but with the parents in mind, because it was understood that you as a parent would be sitting there and consuming the media with your child. So there were always these really dark and brutal, like Malthusian inside jokes nested into like Roald Dahl or Watership Down, or even Sesame Street. Any like great work of children's programming, which is I think like an underappreciated,
truly,
and forgotten medium,
especially nowadays. Yeah.
Because I think like now like children's cartoons and movies are literally worse than porn. They're so pornographic.
It really made me feel like if I was a child, that this would be something that would be like totally frying my brain and like destroying my mind.
You feel like literally like some kind of like Greek maiden raped by Zeus, who's like anamorphed into like a swan or like a donkey.
It's brutal. Yeah. And everything now hits this like middling pitch of like as I said, neither for children nor adult.
Now
this is not a children.
It's
I
not,
think this is notably not a children's movie.
Or adult media is made for children.
For stunted,
yeah,
infantilized adults. Yeah. Because I sort of was like, oh, is this? Because we had to sit all through all those previews, and I kind of was like, oh, is this a movie like for kids fundamentally? Like, I was willing to kind of give it maybe a little more leeway, thinking like, oh yeah, it's like I guess we're seeing a movie for babies. But it's really not at all. Like, this movie would not appeal to like a little girl.
Well, yeah, also chiefly because little girls now like go on TikTok and like do Facetune.
Yeah, they don't care. They don't care about Barbies, but even like
they're like selling their pussy on, like back page or something.
They're on OnlyFans now. But I don't think there was anything that like a child would enjoy or understand about the film, which was also to its extreme detriment. Like,
but in like I think like in a
she should have made a children's movie.
She could have,
and then like peppered in some of her like stupid middling feminist insights.
Yeah. Fuck. What was I gonna say? That scene where the teen girls at the lunch table confront Barbie and call her a body fascist and also a regular fascist is Greta Gerwig almost preempting the critique that this film is absolutely obsolete for younger people, that young people would clown on it.
Well, that was always the notion, I think. I think that was always part of the concept, was that it would be this like Pomo reimagining of like this knowing, winking Barbie franchise movie that like knows it all and is like above it and able, but it fell short of that so much.
Yeah,
because when I auditioned for it, they sent like kind of dummy sides that I can't remember if I signed an NDA. It doesn't matter. If they sent like kind of fake, they sent like a fake script that was
better than the real script.
No, but in the same tone of like vapid Barbie talk, but like mentioning kind of more sophisticated, like intellectualized
I've
concepts.
just reconciled Catholicism and Nietzsche through the power of my mind.
Exactly. It was like kind of like
she had delivered that line.
I have finally squared the circle of the dialectic.
The rectum is a grave. Yeah, it was that tone, and then the notes that I was given from casting were like to be like kind of like cheerful but knowing and like ironic, but like, you know. And I remember being like, they're not gonna cast me in the fucking Barbie movie. Like, that's, you know. And then when I said this to you in the cab, but it was in winter. This was a while ago. Like, this movie's been in the works.
Yeah.
Maybe even, it must have maybe even been pre-COVID. Because I was like trekking through the snow to like go somewhere, and I like fell down and like showed up looking like real disheveled, and remember being like, well, this isn't the right part for me.
Fall down.
I love when the baby says, "Mommy, car fall down. Mommy, food fall down." It's so
when he
cute.
like throws something on the floor. Well, he was playing that game with me when we were driving back from Tim Dillon's BBQ, where he kept hitting me.
He was trying to rape you.
Yeah. No, he kept putting his foot in my face.
Yeah.
And then I took his shoes off, and then he would do this thing. I was in the back seat with Lenny, who was in his car seat, and then he would do this thing where he would like rub his feet. He would like bang his feet against the back of the car seat so that his socks would slip off his like ankles, and then he would put his foot back in my face, and he would go, "Sock fell down," and I would like put his sock back on, and then he would do it again, and then I did it maybe 50 times, and then finally I took his socks off, and I said, "I don't want socks, no more socks."
You were ready to hit him out of frustration. You can admit it.
And then he was screaming literally like Hitler. He was screaming like, sock fell down. And I just wonder where he learned that. Like where this innate kind of will came out of your son
It's
to abuse me
it's
so
called
bad.
being an Aries.
Truly, yeah.
He's so